Hello ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to the RENNSPORT Community League. We have Season 2 on our hands and we are here at Spa. Of course, soon we will also have more action at Spa in real life, as well as possibly in the game. But today, we will have the first race of Season 2 here in the Ardennes for longer races, pit stops, damage, and a lot of new stuff compared to Season 1. We also have a lot of great drivers on the grid today, which will be very exciting. We of course have reset standings, which means the guy we're watching right now, Dominik Ladler, isn't miles ahead in the standings anymore. But I've talked enough now, because it's time to introduce you to my colleague for tonight. Hello, Tim Ireland.
Hey, Lino. It's good to be back for a Season 2 of the Community Leagues here at Spa-Franchorchamps. As you said, there's a big real-life race coming up here, apparently. So I'm sure that drivers will be getting psyched to do some laps.
Yeah, indeed. Of course, Spa is also generally a track that's loved for its racing, and the raceability is nearly unmatched, I'd say, by any other track. There are a lot of great tracks in this world. A lot of them we have in RENNSPORT. But in general, Spa just is so perfect for racing in a way that it is on accident, if you want to say so. But it truly is a very great track.
It is one of the sim racing favourites, isn't it? It's in most games in one form or another, and public servers of it are always packed full of people just racing Spa over and over again, getting that perfect laps.
Well, it's always Spa, Monza, and maybe something like Daytona. But that's... and Suzuka, of course.
Nordschleife.
Yeah, that also gets raced a whole lot.
Some of those I like, some of them less so. But yeah, it's looking forward to a good race today. We've got a bit of a longer format than Season 1. We've got a bit more damage turned on than before, getting the drivers used to it. And we've got a fairly good field of even and quick drivers, which is always a good thing for watching.
Well, we're only missing a few people we are used from this game. Unfortunately, Remco Major is not with us today. He's always somebody who's getting the fireworks out for the races. Of course, Nico Nüninghoff hasn't been part of this for quite a while now, which is kind of sad. Same goes for Pit Travis. But other than that, I mean, we have Dominik Ladler in here. We have Tim Schroeder in here. Timothy Frisch is back, which is very nice to see. He has missed the last 2 races in Season 1, even though he was on a good course. And I think ended on even numbers with Joachim Thunder, who's also here today in the final standings. I can double check that. But we also have, let me find him, Lukas Bender in another Porsche. Of course, in his iconic Porsche, you can say. He is also back. He hasn't been racing, I think, for quite a while now on any official competition, but it's nice to see him back, and he will put his first lap in right now at this stage. And it's enough for second at the moment. Meanwhile, I just double-checked. Indeed, Fridge and Thunder both finished on 469 points in 4th and 5th in the final standings last time around. So
hopefully some good battles going on there.
I mean, they made their point through very different ways. I think Joachim Thunder also had to miss a race due to the water situation, let's say. Of course, not great that stuff like this happens, but
no.
Other than that, he made a return, a heck of a return to sim racing.
Yeah, he's gonna come back with a vengeance. He's trying to make up for lost time, I think.
And he's 1/10 up on Dominik Ladler in Sector 1 here. And I don't think Sector 1 is the strong suit of the Audi compared to the Porsche.
No, with it being mid-engine, it's definitely feels quick around through the twisty sections, which is more kind of Sector 2, isn't it?
But Sector 2 is the time where he lost a lot. Of course, in Spa, it's also very feel based, let's say.
Yeah.
As he's now coming through Blanchiment. And then you have this hard braking zone, not really a clear braking marker in a way, but usually you get it quite consistent. Of course, especially if you do a lot of laps around here. But this hard acceleration zone of the last turn, I think that really will benefit the Audis and the Porsches we have today. As he puts in
Definitely made some
second.
time back.
Lucas Bender's also on a good lap here. Challenging for P2, I think, if he can get Sector 3 right. But it's looking good for him. He's currently about 1.5 tenths up on Joachim Thunder's PB. Takes it a bit easier through bus stop, but of course you want to get the valid lap rather than having an invalid but possibly faster lap. And it's enough to get P2 here in this qualifying session.
Tim Schroeder's coming out of the blocks and setting a fairly decent time as well. He's looking pretty on pace.
This could be challenging for P1. He just misses out on that pole position, 34 thousandths of a second to Dominic Ladler. But he's very strong in the first sector, was 4 tenths up. I think that could be very interesting, especially at the start. You know, only Stahlwasser not having set a lap time, but he's surely gonna set one now.
Obviously, Tim Schroeder's got no fear of Eau Rouge and Radeon.
Well, he definitely fits the stereotype you have of many Dutch people. Pretty fearless and just going for it. And in sim racing you have more than enough examples of that. So, or also in real life racing, I mean, the likes of Max Verstappen, Tom Coronel.
True.
Now imagine what could happen if we get Tom Coronel on this simulator. That would surely be awesome. But Tim Schroeder again, 3.5 tenths up. Sector 1 will be his strong suit, I think.
Yeah, 3 tenths is a lot to pull out in Sector 1, though.
I mean, Sector 1 is basically just before the right-hander at the end of the Campbell Straight.
Yeah.
So just before Les Combs. And I mean, you only really have the acceleration zone out of La Source and the run through Eau Rouge up Radeon.
Yeah, so I don't know whether he's getting on the... I can't imagine he's getting on the valve that much faster.
And he pretty much lost exactly that time in Sector 2. He's 5 thousandths up on Dominic Ladler on this lap time. Dominic Ladler now out of the final turn. He won't set... Oh, he does improve by another tenth. So he had a very good Sector 3 there. So Tim Schroeder has to find approximately 2 tenths here in Sector 3. Very aggressive over the curbs. And he does it by 3 thousandths of a second. He beats Dominic Ladler to the pole. There's still a bit of time to run in this session, of course, but I think Dominic Ladler also has reset back to the pits there in front of him. So they won't set another lap time. Joachim Thunder has parked it. Lucas Bender has also set his last lap time. And Tim Schroeder is on pole for the first race here in Spa-Franchorchamps in RCL Season 2. Do you think that's a surprise, or did you already think, yeah, it's gonna happen?
I don't know. I think Tim Schroeder's always got good pace. So yeah, but Dominic Ladler set such a good lap early on. I thought he might have held it, but I suppose it was barely between them two. But hopefully it's a portent for some good racing.
I mean, good racing is pretty much guaranteed around here, I think. You know, we are waiting for the people to get ready to get on the track. But I mean, we can play a bit of a prediction game, I guess. Who's your pick for today?
I think it's difficult not to go with Ladler just because he's such a consistent driver. I can see him making good, clean laps, one lap after another.
But here goes nothing. We are on the start-finish straight. We are much closely matched than before. And it's green light here for the first race of the RENNSPORT Community League Season 1. It's a good start from Schroeder and side-by-side further behind. Between, I think that was Bender and Joachim Thunder, but we are cleanly through turn 1. Oh, and as I said, that Joachim Thunder just got pushed right by Lukas Bender there a bit, I think. Losing out another place to Stahlwasser. But Tim Schroeder leading up the hill for the first time.
Using all the curve coming up over Eau Rouge there. But he's got Ladler in his slipstream. This is where he's been making up most of the time in qualifying, but maybe slipstream will nullify that a bit.
Joachim Thunder making the move to get back P4, but can't quite get past the German. Actually going a bit wide here in Lescombe. And now being under pressure from Gok Polassa, who's trying to pull up the inside. Of course, Dominik Ladler also has been part of last week's 3-class Spa race, which we had. And he won his split, so he won the GT3 class. He's very, I think, used to this track after that.
Yeah, I don't think there's many sim races that aren't used to Spa by now, but it's always a bit different when you play it in a different game, so that they've always got their little quirks and idiosyncrasies. But we seem to have a bit of a front pack at the minute with Schroeder, Ladler and Bender just clinging on to the back of it there, trying to keep contention with the top two.
Yeah, of course. Timothy Fritsch, I think for his this season will be a bit more like this last one, where he will have constantly good results, but not really being part of that front pack. And you can see this here as well. He can't quite go the pace of Schroeder, Ladler and Bender in front. But he's also holding up strong against Joachim Thunder, who's closely behind.
Yeah, he's probably hoping not to get caught in too many battles with Thunder right now. See if he can maybe bridge the gap. And hopefully for us, drag Thunder along with him.
Lala's already putting the pressure up to Tim Schroeder. Tim Schroeder went a bit defensive into La Source, which is very interesting to see that early into the race. Or with the gap that he has, because it's not like Ladler is extremely close. Of course, he's close behind in good proximity, but he's not really, except for a big lunge the inside, you can't really do anything in his position right now, I think.
No, you wouldn't expect somebody like Ladler to be making that kind of move this early on in a race. There's a long way to go, and he knows it. So unless he's feeling pressure to keep up, I can imagine he'd be more than happy to play a bit more of a waiting game for now. He's got plenty of opportunities to slipstream and catch up. So yeah, maybe a bit. The adrenaline got to Schroeder a little bit there, and he maybe played it a bit more defensive than he had to do.
I mean, of course, these two now know also each other very well. They have raced each other countless times. Hanged on the Discord for also quite a lot of time. Which you can also join in the description of the stream or in the info box on Twitch. Well, Joachim Thunder now down the inside at campus. Forcing Timothy Fritsch wide, but again, Timothy Fritsch with defensive masterclass, I'd already say that. Just keeping up the pace around the outside so Thunder can't get a car length alongside.
He's playing a very good racing game. He's not compromising his line too much, but he's just making it enough known that Thunder's not going to get past.
Meanwhile, up front, Dominik Ladler maybe now in the position to attack for P1 into bus stop around the outside, braking a bit later, but not quite as late as he could. Tim Schroeder also keeping him behind. But Thunder now with a good run out of the bus stop to the inside of the Porsche. Actually getting back to the outside here.
Fritsch going very defensive there, maybe a bit too defensive.
I think Thunder has him here. But Fritsch can still counterattack. If he has a good run up a Rouge, this could well be a counter move.
Yeah, he squared it off pretty quickly, so he got back on the accelerator fast. So it's a long run down the Camel Straight for him to get a slipstream.
Just as Lala shows us here around the outside. A little bit of a drift there, goes wide over the curb and won't take that position here. And Thunder was able to keep 4th place. And I think with the pace he has, he will be able to open up a bit of a gap, but that's Scott Polassa around in the BMW.
That would have done his tyres much good. He'll have to be letting them cool down a little bit in the next few corners, otherwise he'll be doing a repeat performance.
Yeah, it looked like a bit of an unlucky one, because he kind of went over the curbing and hooked himself up with the inside of the curb, which is at Spa, at Le Combe is a bit steep. So if you clip that coming back from outside the track limit onto the curb, it can throw your car off.
Yeah, it just unsettles the suspension a little bit.
I mean, it's the same struggle you see, for example, at the Nürburgring Grand Prix track, at the 24 hours, where you have a lot of cars, and if one car goes a bit wide and comes back across the curb, it can basically, because it's so steep from the outside and the grass is basically so low, that it hooks up your tire and spins you around or cuts open the tire. That can also happen. Fortunately not in RENNSPORT yet, but maybe in the future, who knows. Oh, but Tim Schroeder loses it through bus stop. And that's Dominic Lala taking the lead. He also had a bit of an oversteer there and just went on the throttle too hard for that moment.
That puts Schroeder behind, but coming into his strongest sector, he's very close, so he's got to be itching to go for another overtake as he gets to the end of the Camel Straight.
Still a long way to go, of course. We will also see pit stops later in this race. We have a 45-minute race. Fuel will last about 30 minutes, 35 depending on how you drive. But here comes Tim Schroeder.
Ladler going immediately defensive there. Schroeder getting the outside line into the inside line. Manages to make the overtake.
Was that just a rare occasion of Schroeder getting flashed by Dominic Ladler there? I mean, usually you expected the other way around with these two.
You maybe thought it was about time he got some of his own medicine.
But look at how close these two are still running. Lucas Bender, meanwhile, also holding it strong in 3rd. He's not far off the two in front, about 4 seconds.
No, if they can fight a bit more, he might be able to creep back into contention. But at the minute, he's stuck a bit in no man's land, isn't he? In between the... Well, what was the fight for 4th, but Timothy Frisch and Joachim Thunder seem to have split up now.
And Joachim Thunder slowly gaining on the two in front, but Lucas Bender just made up about 2/10 in that last sector.
Nice.
But here comes Ladler in slipstream again. To the outside in bus stop. Is he trying to go for the cutback? I think he will be.
He is.
If he can get a good run out of the bus stop here, he may be able to basically just throw Tim Schroeder off his ideal racing line and mess with his good sector 1.
Well, he's coming out, doing a bit more of a late apex, trying to get a bit more speed down into Eau Rouge.
course, if they continue like that, they will also drag each other just along with the slipstream, which is quite powerful here. You gain on every car behind without losing too much time if you don't overfight in the middle sectors, which they don't seem to do anymore.
No, they seem to be being fairly sensible about it, to be honest. They're not doing any aggressive moves in the middle sector, like you said, but they're using the slipstream on the first and the third sector, and that's kind of helping them along. They've managed to make another half a second or so on Lucas Bender in third. Jochen Thunder 4 seconds behind him right now, but he seems to be keeping a good pace. Now he's all on his own.
It's also interesting to see the difference. I mean, the Porsche and the BMW couldn't be further apart. I think this is probably the biggest difference you will get in GT3s. In basically any dimension. Porsche's re-engined, BMW is front-engined. BMW is quite the big, wide car. The Porsche is more nimble and small. Pretty much everything is different, except for rear-wheel drive, maybe.
Tim Schroeder seems to be pulling away there. That seemed to be a big gap that opened up.
A 6/10 is still in slipstream range, but won't be as powerful anymore.
Yeah, Lucas Bender in third, lapping about half a second slower than the two ahead, who were both holding a fairly even pace, obviously, because they're pretty close together. Jochen Thunder's dropping a couple of tenths on Bender every lap at the minute.
Does look like Tim Schroeder has kind of dropped Dominic Lalla here, though. It's now 7/10 behind.
Yeah, he's not going to get as much of a drag coming down the Kemmel Straight here as he'd been that far back. Thought he might be able to close it up a little bit, but he's not going to be challenging for position.
You know, it seems like Gok Polasa came back into 6th position, but is still in a bit of a fight with Marco Starwasser here.
Timothy Frisch's last lap was a bit of a slow one. I wonder if he has got a bit of damage or something.
I mean, maybe he also, in turn 1, for example, or compromised a bit.
Maybe.
So that was still with a fire-breathing Porsche in the rearview mirror.
The top 4 drivers all doing 2 minutes 17 laps last lap. Jochen Thunder a 10th faster than Lucas Bender. Ladler did a 17.5. Tim Schroeder did a 17.0. So he put in an absolute blister in last lap.
But I think, Dominic Lalla going a bit wide there. It cost him a bit of time, but it seems like he salvaged it from being a bigger thing. But I think the deciding factor will be undercut or overcut in this case.
Yes.
We won't see any tire changes, except if you ruined your tires, but I don't think anyone will, in the leading group of 5, will go for that. But the timing when you refuel, how much you refuel, and also in the case of Schroeder and Lala especially, how good you get your car to stop. Because having to change the car's position for the pit stop does cost you quite some time, up to 2 and 3 seconds, if you get it very wrong. They both know how to do it. But I mean, we are talking about a difference of 4 or 5 tenths. Just a couple of centimeters.
The gap between them is so small at the minute that they need to be fairly kind of on the money when it comes to stopping for the pits. The fuel usage is practically identical at the minute, so they'll maybe be coming into fuel at the same time.
I mean, all that Lala really needs is 5 to 6/10 overall to be back in contention.
Yes. Yeah, he's dropped back a little bit now, but when they come out of the pits, if he can be within like half a second or so, then he's going to start getting the toe again. So that'll definitely help him out. Tim Schroeder's last lap was a 16.8, but it was invalidated. But it doesn't count so much in a race.
I mean, you will still get warnings and eventually a 5-second penalty. We have seen that more times in recent times, that does happen and actually affects race results. So you shouldn't dismiss it over such a race duration.
No. I think people are getting a bit too easy, a bit too comfortable with the 15 incident limit and maybe getting a bit blasé and pushing it a bit more than they should do. And, yeah, it has impacted a couple of races recently.
Joachim Thunder getting closer and closer to Lukas Bender here to challenge for that P3. He wanted to do that inside of the race, then kind of got held back by Timothy Fritsch, who's still running in 5th with a good gap to the cars behind. But he does get himself back in contention.
Yeah, Lukas Bender's last lap was an 18.4, whereas Thunder did a 17.7, so he made up a lot of time in that last lap. And he's definitely going to be seeing Lukas Bender as he drives around the track, so he's got something to chase.
And just the last lap, as you said. No, this lap was a 17.8 for Bender. I don't think Lukas will be pushing it too much in this stage. He wants to get it home safely.
Yeah, he's definitely going to want to be looking after his tyres. I'm guessing Joachim Thunder's probably using up a lot more rubber chasing him down than he is just casually keeping his pace. Although, like you said, Lukas Bender hasn't been racing so much recently, so I wonder how tight his pit stops are.
I mean, he has been driving, you can say that. He has his fair share of driving time in this game, you can be sure of that. As we can also... Well, we'll see. Will be interesting. As we can say hello to last week's RCE winner. Smoldusu is in the YouTube live chat, which is very nice to see. Hope you're enjoying the show. This time you're not driving, but enjoying, I guess. It was the BMW leading last week. It's a BMW leading right now, as Dominic Lala has dropped another second in the last 2 laps to Tim Schroeder. But Tim Schroeder is also driving lap times in the 2:16s. I don't think we have seen that in qualifying.
No, and he's just done a purple sector 2 as well, so he's on for a very good lap right now. He just seems to be getting quicker and quicker at the moment.
You know, when we talked about Tim Schroeder and Remco Major being quite a lethal combo for pretty much everyone else that's driving?
Yeah.
I think with the way that Tim Schroeder is developing as a driver, it does become even more crazy, because Tim Schroeder seems to be a bit of a pace wizard in that case.
Yeah, the way he seems to be able to do laps by himself and just get... He just seems to be able to either maintain his pace or pick it up a little bit. He's just done a 16.5. I think for more like an endurance type race where they're swapping cars, I think. Sorry if you can hear thunder right now. It's thundering by me.
Right, he's currently in P4, so.
But yeah, if you put Remco in for a first split and Tim Schroeder in for a second split, where he's got a bit more space and he can just do some laps by himself, it could be a fairly killer combo.
Yeah, and put Tim Schroeder in the car at qualifying.
Yeah, he always seems to have good qualifying laps.
And then you basically have your perfect dream team, as Wildusi in chat says, next time father and son driving together, which will be very interesting. Especially when you see what's up. I mean, next week we will have Daytona. LMDH and GT3 multiclass, which will be very interesting, which we will talk about later on as well.
And LMDH and Daytona is the current time trial combo we're running on the Discord as well. So
indeed. So if you want to get prepped for the race, check out Jay's time trials. So they are always worth trying out. There's a bit more traffic on them as well, in terms of best laps, new lap times. But we are approaching halfway of this race. I think they will drive the fuel tanks as empty as possible in this case, especially Tim Schroeder, I think.
Yeah, he's got no reason to pit until he absolutely has to right now. He's going to want to keep the track position, make sure Dominic Ladler doesn't do the undercut. So I think he'll stay out as long as he possibly can.
Gap between Lucas Bender and Joachim Thunder came down to about 2 seconds now.
Yeah, he's got Lucas firmly in his sights when he's on any of the straight sections. So, and I know he'd love to beat Lucas because he will talk about it on Discord all week long.
I mean, this week we have the discussion in Discord that Joachim Thunder, the name Thunder, is just such a nice name for a race car driver. Such a funny one, especially.
It is a good one. You can't complain about that.
Well, there is technically one complaint, which I already told him, but that's probably more for people my age who have watched the Cars movie in their childhood. But fortunately we don't have anyone in this race called Lightning, so...
That's true. In another racing league, I used to race quite often against a guy called Billy Octane, and that was a fairly amazing driver's name as well.
I mean, you always find those hidden gems, as you could say. Okay. I remember names like George owing to wreck, which with the abbreviation used in that sim was going to wreck. And he had a second Smurf account, which was going to wreck 2 Electric Boogaloo. And it was such a long name that it didn't fit on any timing tower, timing screen whatsoever, but it was just hilarious. You came into server, saw that name, and were like, yeah, that's him. Couldn't miss him.
And very regularly, I used to race and be about the same pace as someone whose last name was Van der Linde. Which was always just amazing to hear from crew chief that you were catching Van der Linde or Van der Linde was behind you.
I would be very scared if I had a Van der Linde behind me. Because they're both very quick.
You can maybe get 3 more laps out of the current tanks.
Fuel usage is, I think, about 3.5 per lap.
Yeah, something like that.
So it will be very tight. I mean, realistically speaking, unless their name is Remco Meyer, they're not gonna risk it.
You're never gonna let him live that one down.
No, not really. I mean, in all fairness, he still won that race, but that was still...
Yes.
I couldn't believe what I've seen at that moment. I've seen it from many people, but seeing it, such a mistake made by him, was very surprising, let's say it like that.
Gap between Thunder and Bender is down to just over a second now, so that he's really reeling him in. I don't know whether Lucas is feeling the pressure, because his last lap was an 18.7. His pace seems to be a bit erratic right now.
I mean, maybe it also comes down to tire temperatures. He seems to be having to fight with understeer a lot more than the likes of Ladler and Fridge. If you take a look at them. So maybe he's just fighting with the front temperatures, basically.
Yeah,
Compromising
maybe.
his lap time. And then you're not really, like, you don't really see any mistake that costs you lap time. It's just over the complete lap, you will lose lap time because you just can't turn in as much and as hard as somebody on cooler tires can.
Yeah, just gradually bleeding it from one corner to another.
And Tim Schroeder's in the pits. So's Dominic Ladler. Will Lukas Bender and Joachim Thunder follow them? Theoretically, they can drive another lap, and Joachim Thunder will stay out. And Tim Schroeder is going again. How far will Ladler be behind? I think he gained a tiny bit. So we see Lukas Bender parking there behind.
Ladler's was a very clean pit stop.
And Lukas Bender found the flasher. That's a good thing.
Oh, he's changing tires. Lucas is changing tires. That could be an interesting strategic move.
I think he has still the time and might be the safe call here to keep P4. Timothy Fritsch also stayed and is come out right in front of Dominic Ladler, and that's not good for the Austrian driver. Because Dominic Ladler is now behind another car. And unless he can get by into the column here, he will lose a lot of time to Timothy Fritsch. Not Timothy Fritsch, to Tim Schroeder. Timothy Fritsch defending to the outside, Dominic Ladler sending it around the inside, so at least he got that position quite quickly. But the gap to Tim Schroeder, 4.2 seconds. Marco Stahlwasser's also in the pits. Lukas Bender's back driving. Same Gok Polassa who's still in the pits. Now driving again. Actually, these two are also not too far apart.
No, they seem to be having a fairly decent scrap further down the field.
Joachim Thunder will have to come in this lap. So let's see where he will come out.
He's running on fumes right now, so he's definitely got enough to finish the lap, but he's no way he's going to make another one.
Well, of course, for him, he now knows he could theoretically even take tires, because I think he doesn't really want to fight for P1 and 2 in this race. That's not a distance he can make up in such an amount of time. As we see on your screen, the fork of Timothy Fritsch having a spin.
Yeah. Bit of an unfortunate one there.
Only Ladler and Tim Schroeder.
Thunder predictably coming into the pits right now. And he's not taking tires.
Timothy Fritsch in the background, we're able to see him coming into the pits. So Joachim Thunder, of course, will easily come out in third here. But where will Lukas Bender be at the end of his pit stop? Will Timothy Fritsch change tires? Will he not change tires? If he does not change tires, he might be able to come out in front of Lukas Bender.
He is changing tires, and he got a second of moving time on his car as well.
Means Lukas Bender will easily be back in fourth, but will have kind of a lonely second stint to his race. Because we still have 15 minutes to go. Well, more like 16, but roughly the same. But 3.8 seconds. That's the gap between Tim Schroeder and Dominic Ladler.
Dominic Ladler putting about an extra lap's worth of fuel in than Tim Schroeder. So he's maybe overfueled it a little bit. Not.
It seems like it's Not too much. I mean, Joachim Sander has definitely gone for a safer route there.
Yeah. I think Lucas may have forgot to change his pit stop settings before he came in, because seems to have put the default 40 liters in.
I'm not sure if he has pit stop settings, because he told me once about that he doesn't have the bindings so far assigned. Because you should have the buttons assigned for the pit menu, but for him, he will be happy to finish that race in fourth if he can hold on to that. I can assure you that.
Tim Schroeder going and doing a 17.1 for his first flying lap after the pits. Dominic Ladler doing 17.5, so he's gradually growing that gap all over again.
He's been in fifth for a long time, Dominic Ladler. But as the race has come to a bit of a standstill now, with 15 minutes to go, what do you think about talking about the next schedule?
Yeah, let's do that.
Or rather said about the current schedule. Talked about it last time already. But this is how it looks at the moment. So we have one more week of all this action happening on track. Next week we have the Daytona 45-minute race, so fairly similar to this one. But with the inclusion of the hypercars, and of course again a 24-car grid, which will be very interesting. Of course the last multi-class we had was a lot of action, this time without the TCRs, but still will be very interesting.
I think it'll be maybe good to condense it into two classes. I think we should get a bit more action between the two of them. And hypercars and GT3s at Daytona is a bit of a classic combination. You can't really go wrong with that.
Yeah, indeed. Especially with the high bankings and all that kind of stuff. I think it's a match made in heaven. It's possibly one of my personal favorites of the year. The rest is pretty much as you're used to from this week. So you have Orchard Road once per day with the Mission R. Same goes for multiclass at Daytona, so you can prepare for the 21st. And Pickup and Touring Car at Hockenheim, which I think is also very interesting. Usually you see the classes being matched with GT3s. But Porsche Cup and Touring Car, they are both not the highest downforce cars. But the Porsche can just power down the straights, even compared to a GT3.
It is a complete rocket ship in a straight line. I can imagine coming up to the hairpin at Hockenheim, you must be able to get some real speed out of it.
Indeed.
And they've always been fun cars, Porsche Cups. Maybe they're maybe a bit underplayed in RENNSPORT. I know that they're one of the earlier cars we did, and they're maybe suffering a little bit because of that. But I've always enjoyed racing both Porsche Cups and touring cars, so for me that's a good combo.
Well, maybe I can put in some shameless plug if you already said it like that, because tomorrow will be the KCG finale here at Spa as well in the Porsche Cup with 2 races. And so far it has been very interesting to watch those races, to say it like that, lots of action. So if you want to give the Porsche Cup a try, maybe this is your shot at it. But we also, of course, can talk about the league, because this is, of course, the opening round of Season 2. This is Season 2, Episode 1. In 2 weeks' time, we will go to America, to Road Atlanta, and stay in America for Road Atlanta, and then followed by Daytona.
And then over to the short street circuit of Orchard Road, which always gives some good battles. If there's a good close pace between people, it's always a fun one to watch people be a bit more tactical, maybe thinking their moves through a little bit more.
I mean, in Season 1, Orchard Road has been one of the best races, I think.
Yeah.
So I'm very much looking forward to a repeat of that. we will stay in Asia for a short moment to go to Fuji, which we haven't raced in the series yet.
And then over to the other sim race's favourite track of Monza.
Indeed. Basically goes from sim racing favorite to America to Asia to sim racing favorite. So you could call it Europe, but I think that would be boring.
Yeah.
So there is a bit of structure this time. But Tim Schroeder continues to lead the way in this race.
You were just trying to minimize people's air miles, weren't you?
I mean, yeah, flying equipment is very expensive, and we need to think about the environment.
Exactly.
So it's very important to think about.
Tim Schroeder here is still pushing hard. He did a 217 dead in the last lap, but he has been dipping into the 216s as well recently. Dominic Ladler is trying to fight back with a 17.4. Lucas Bender is actually going quicker than Jochen Thunder now, I suppose, with his new tyres on. But he's got a lot of a gap to make up, so I doubt we'll see that in the next 8 minutes.
Unless Jochen Thunder does a big mistake here, I doubt we will see that. But of course, for him, this is pretty much the ideal state. He can just drive his laps consistently lap time around this 7.004 kilometer track, which is also actually, and I said in the announcement for the stream in the Discord, Weird Racing Trivia, technically Spa is 4 meters too long to be an Formula 1 eligible circuit.
Really?
The guideline, Monaco is too short, by the way, so Monaco would theoretically be too short, so there's an exception for those 2 tracks. I think the recommendation is something like 1.6 kilometers minimum. No, it can't be 1.6. 2.6 or something minimum, and 7 kilometers maximum. And back then, when they put that rule in, Spa was below 7 kilometers, just below. But then they changed the run to bus stop. You know, back then, for example, when you had the 1998 Chaos race, you didn't really have the bus stop we have today. But since they changed it, the track got ever so slightly longer by a few meters. And, well, it's now theoretically too long.
Well, they just can't give it up, can they? You can't say no to Spa-Franchorchamps.
I mean, it would be... They already go about enough technicalities, I'd say, to make this one... Well, another point. I'm not sure how it's measured, though. Is it measured from the middle of the track throughout, or is it measured by the ideal racing line? But that changes.
No idea.
Probably goes to the middle of the track, so you drive below 7 kilometers in total. Unless you run right somewhere, but that's not really by design.
I suppose it depends if they wanted to pass or fail. If they want it to pass, they'll go by the very inside of the ideal racing line.
But if you want to make up time, you just use the MotoGP turn here, no name, that you have just pass through. I think they really did good upgrades to Spa in that case. I'm not really a fan of some other tracks that have been modified in recent time, not because I'm always trying to hold on to old stuff, but because I'm just not particularly a fan of the way they modified it.
No, they've tried to keep like the spirit of the track as much as possible.
Yeah, and I think they did improve it quite a lot for racing as well, in that the gravel traps work well, and they're not overly... Well, they don't penalize you too much, I'd say.
No.
But they still restrict the racing room in a way that you don't have to go over track limits every lap.
Yeah, the flow of the track's pretty much maintained, isn't it? And as long as you're staying on the track, it's not that much different. Which, you know, you should be trying to stay on the track.
I think the only thing that you have to adapt to really in the flow of driving is driving through radio, because the curb is a bit more to the right hand than before, so it's a bit tighter, but it's still very doable, especially with the most modern GT3s which we have in the game, which have even more downforce than, let's say, the GT3s from 10, 12 years ago. So the cars like the Z4 GT3, the i8 Ultra GT3, so stuff like that, which is, of course, not comparable to a modern GT3.
No, the old Jaguars and old Bentleys and things, they were very quick in a straight line, but they had not a lot in the way of downforce, or just also suspension technology, I suppose, has come on a long way since then.
Yeah, of course. Also the tire technique. But I think they're still awesome cars to watch. If you have the opportunity to see some of them, for example, there are some track days and race events for privateer GT3 entries. I think one is called GTC and stuff. You see some newer GT3s mixed with older GT3s, and just experiencing that is very special.
They've always been fun cars. I mean, they're huge, they're noisy. I think it's part of the size of a GT3 car is lost to you when you see them on TV, but they're big and they're noisy, and
I mean,
they're obviously exciting, but as they've gotten newer, they've become far more kind of refined and very kind of dedicated machines, especially with the air force. The downforce has become a massive part of it.
Yeah, but to be honest, except for the M4, I was on to spectate the DTM in 2022 at the Nürburgring, and I stood right by those cars, and I thought they were bigger.
Yeah,
They're actually not overly big. Like, if you put one of the, let's say, bigger luxury cars of each brand alongside them, let's say a Panamera or RS8, M8, stuff like that, they are small actually. But they're still, they are in a standstill and just look fast and are brutal and loud and, as you said, noisy. It's a blast to listen, to see them.
Yeah, I suppose we haven't got so much the old M6s in there anymore, which was a massive, great tanker of a car. And the Bentley Continentals don't show up so much anymore. They were also pretty huge.
Yeah, indeed. Those are really big cars.
Very intimidating when you were driving a tiny little McLaren.
Well, I mean, I mainly drive R8s, so they are even smaller. I think it's the smallest GT3 out there, since we don't have the likes of the Z4 anymore, unfortunately.
No.
I really liked that car. It was very special, but I really liked it. But the R8, I think, is at the moment the smallest GT3 you can drive. It's definitely the one with the shortest wheelbase.
That surprises me, to be honest.
I mean, Audi is not really known for the smallest cars, right?
No. And I suppose because of the way they were made as a deal, that I'd always kind of assumed the Audi and the Lamborghini Huracan were kind of comparable in most dimensions.
I mean, the Lamborghini is also fairly short, that's correct.
Yeah.
But actually, if you have the chance to drive them in a simulator and compare them, they are very unique. They are more unique than you might think. Of course, they are powered by the same engines and share a lot of the base, but they are still distinctively enough, or distinctively... I forgot the word. But they are not the same. That's for certain. They are very unique in their own way.
And I've never been near a McLaren GT3 car, but not me, I'll hasten to add, but somebody near where I used to work had a McLaren 720, and it did always surprise me whenever I saw it, just how low it was and how small it looked in a car parking space.
Indeed. I mean, the supercars aren't actually as big as they sometimes seem. Because if you make a car bigger, you also make it draggier. So you need more power to displace the air. You need more aerodynamic stuff to increase airflow. So there's always like this... Yeah, you have gains with a bigger car. For example, more stability. But if you overdo it, you don't have those gains anymore. And I think that's the main thing, for example, why the M4 is that big as it is. Because they made use of the wide wheelbase to make the car more stable, especially since it's front-engined. So they went for the stability and made the rest up with power, and the rest does the BOP, basically. And I mean, it did work for them. So the M4, you can't say the M4 doesn't have his share of success.
No, it's definitely done well. Lasser and Stahlwasser here having a bit of a ding-dong. Maybe somebody going a bit too Christmas tree with their headlights.
Well, maybe Tim Schrader has hooked up his button with Marco Stahlwasser's car, who knows. But yeah, indeed. But I think it's already the last lap. We talked a lot, but Tim Schrader will cross the line this lap and finish this race. And that's Tim Schrader, another victory to his name in the RENNSPORT Community League. And the first one of Season 2, Tim Schrader, congratulations to him. Dominic Ladler will finish this race in P2, just couldn't quite keep the pace with the Dutchman in the end of the race, but putting up a great fight in the opening stages.
Gap between Joachim Thunder and Lucas Bender did come down a fair amount compared to what it was, but unfortunately there was no way he was making the tyre stops worth the time back.
That's still Joachim Thunder, made in third, but Lucas Bender, he was so afraid of spinning out before this race, and yet I haven't seen him do a single mistake.
Oh, he hasn't finished yet. Why did you say it?
Okay, yeah, true. But if you, I mean, I will buy him some candy if he. Okay, maybe he's listening, so please don't bin it, Lucas. So.
I've been very good at not mentioning him spinning all race.
Well, I've left it up to the last opportunity. Somebody has to do it. And Lewis McLeod is now using that as an example to why the commentator's curse doesn't exist, but Lucas Bender safely crossed the line without spinning in fourth. Timothy Fridge had a spin, but still in fifth. Good result for him.
Celebrating early with a few light flashes there.
I'm not sure if Stahlwasser was celebrating when he used his flasher before. But they're coming to the final chicane.
Is he going to make a lot?
He's too far away. That would have been pretty outrageous to try that. But Scott Polasser in sixth, but Marco Stahlwasser closely behind, finishing this race in seventh. And that's your final results. It's Tim Schrader on top with Dominic Ladler in P2, Joachim Thunder in P3. 3 different cars in the top 3. I think that's a good one to open up this season.
So then we've got Lucas Bender, Timothy Frisch, Gokpo Lasser, and the guy whose name I can't remember.
Marco Stahlwasser.
The server.
I mean, it might have been a bit harder to pronounce for you as well, so fair point. But yeah, we will be updating you with the standings in just a moment's time, because we also have a second split, which we want to go over. And until then, you can enjoy the trailer for next week's RCE and enjoy with that one. And we are back with footage. Well, not quite footage, because we're still waiting for the results to come in. But actually, we have the results right now in this moment. So we can take a look here at what happened in race 1. Of course, Tim Schroeder leading the standings after race 1. Joao Loreto won split 2, therefore moving up into second in the final standings. Then we have Dominik Ladler, followed by Joachim Thunder. Gerardo Acosta also on the second server. Has been a bit of a regular in Season 1, so it's nice to see him back on 99 points. And then it's Lucas Bender, Timothy Fritsch, Martino Marcelo Arua, who is new to this RENNSPORT Community League, Gok Polassa on 28 points, and then Bernard Caracas and Marco Stavassa without points, unfortunately, but well, this time they still made their name, especially Stavassa, I guess.
Yeah, it was a bit of a smaller split 2 for the race today, but they seem to have had fun. They mostly got to the end of the race, which is always a good thing.
Yeah, indeed. But with all that said, I think it's time to end for today. And do you want to say some final verdicts on the opening race of Season 2?
No, it was a good race. It was maybe a bit unfortunate for Dominik Ladler with his pit stop, just getting stuck behind Timothy Frisch, I think it was. But I think Tim Schroeder played that one really well.
Yeah, I would agree with you. I think everybody who finished this race can be very proud of them, because it's been very clean. And, I mean, nobody got led this time on split 1. So, yeah, I think we can be looking forward to the next RC in 2 weeks at Road Atlanta. Of course, we had a very interesting race at Road Atlanta just this Tuesday in your RENNSPORT Weekly League. But we will have some other interesting events coming up soon. The aforementioned Daytona race next week, as well as some surprises. So stay tuned for more news next week. And until then, have a great evening. Maybe check out KCG tomorrow. And Motorsport UK is also, I think, tomorrow evening, I think.
I think it is, yeah.
Have a great Le Mans race if you're watching that. And until next time, goodbye.
Goodbye.